Yep.
Perfect. So yeah, just going to give a quick run through of the Housing Repairs Online project. Just early shout out that it is funded by what is now Department for Levelling Up and Housing Communities through the local digital fund. As we just mentioned, I'm Fraser Trickett, work for City Lincoln Council, and we've got Paul Klimpson on as well from Maytech side if there's any questions specific to those. Just an early shout out as well that we're working closely with Southwark Council at the moment in this. They're our other real lead partner, but always open to more people coming on board, such as yourselves. And this is what our core team looks like at the moment. I'll not run through everybody on here, but myself and Paul, hopefully you know, we've got Southwark. Just to draw attention to is that we've also got Jem Bowen. He used to work for Greenwich Council, but is one of the leads on the Thistle group, which is a technology housing group for the London boroughs. So he's got some great input on there. Engineers from Maytech side and Leon from DLUK, who's working closely with us as well. So just to give a bit of background about why we started on this as a journey, way back in 2019, there was the ability to apply for the digital fund money, and both Lincoln and Southwark applied at that point alongside with Gravesham and Lewisham, and we'd all recognised that we'd got a common problem here in that we all still do repairs on as an organisation, and a common thing for us is that it was the #1 reason that customers were calling us. When we started to get into the detail of doing our discovery, we found that our estimate was a national £30 million handling cost of that, which is why we're trying to, do something different in this. We found that the repairs the repair service is a complex service. There's lots of different ways that a repair can manifest itself. Lots of different kind of technical reasons behind the scenes and set up why that can be hard to integrate with, and that any digital take up that is out there is relatively low. So Lincoln has a report repair online service, but it's not a true online service at the moment. If somebody needs a repair as a follow-up of that, we call them back to get a booking a convenient appointment time, which kind of helps drive that thinking and mentality that it's easier just to ring us anyway. And you've also got a tenant, often the most vulnerable in our society, talking to somebody who's not a repairs operative, both of them trying to either describe or understand an issue and attribute and schedule a rate code to it from this huge library that we know we all use, and some of it down to real complex and finite identification of a repair type. So it could be that instead of just I've got a problem with my tap, as we would all probably suggest when talking to a plumber, we want to understand things like, well, what type of material is the pipe, what type of tap is it, what millimetre size is it, and it just doesn't quite fit into what is a good user service in here. And all of that just drives it so that the digital take up is low and people prefer to call because we're helping push people that way. And as a result of that, our diagnosis can be not the best, to put it quite frankly on there, and 50% of the calls are repeat calls. And that's either because the issue wasn't dealt with first time, or people are left confused after that first initial interaction about what's happening next, either their appointment time, who's coming, when, what day, etc. So we really want to make something that's easy to use on here and something that's for the customer. So yeah, our vision, I'll not read this out, you guys can read it for yourselves, I'm sure, but the thing I just really want to draw attention to is that this is something that's designed around the user and meets their needs. A lot of the products that are out there on the market at the moment are designed around the system or council needs. So really that's the flip in this and what makes our product quite unique in the market. And of course, for it to be reusable and scalable to across other authorities is also a real key part of this too. So far we've had 4 rounds of funding. We started off with the discovery. Some of those figures are just quoted out in there to understand that this is a common problem, which we did. And then we went through an alpha and an alpha technical. During that alpha and alpha technical, we spent some time and throughout this, trying to get to a common service pattern. We've now got that agreed. It's worth shouting out as well that through all of these rounds, we've been managing the project using agile techniques, which has been, quite frankly, essential with how the project's adapted, and as we've learnt more, we've had to change some directions in some cases. We've always kept that user testing at the forefront of this. It's been a real focus in every round that we've gone through, so that we know that what we're developing is something customers will want to use and they like to use it. And just reiterating that point from earlier on, that whatever we do is going to be open source, that we can scale this up. So as different suppliers and technical elements come into this, we can scale this and make it as reusable as we possibly can. And hopefully, if nothing else, we have an impact on the market that's out there, and we get some of the incumbent suppliers to perhaps change and improve their processes from the hard work that we've put in so far about these user needs. So we're now in the beta stage. We've done a lot of work up to this point to understand that issue is there, that it is common. We've got a good process in place. We've tested some prototypes, and now we've really got down to building this as a product. So our first phase in here was to adopt that common service pattern, put that into this working prototype, to start to build that out, and to start to look at how a API layer might work in here so that we can integrate it, at the moment in Lincoln's case, with DRS and universal housing. We're not at this stage looking at doing full-blown integration with the housing management system. It really is a focus that we're integrating with the scheduling software first and foremost, because that's the part that completes the customer journey. And we didn't want to bite off more than we could chew in terms of trying to integrate with this huge variety and complex setup that we've got in the market. And then following on from that, we'll be looking at extending this common service pattern so that we can amend and cancel appointments. But we just want to prove, first things first, get a good product out there with the most common types of repair in, and see how that is used. And then we can start to build on that as a platform, taking in the feedback and the metrics that we get along as we go. And also to prove that replication and adoption, which is where we start to move in at the end of phase 2 and phase 3. So we want other authorities to be able to pick up the work that we've done and implement it at their own sites. We know that this isn't going to solve 100% of the problems with the repair online. There are repairs that we want to still come into us via telephone, but just hitting home that point, this is supposed to be around proving this principle of it. It's not a bells and whistles and all at this stage in here, but it should still provide a really good user experience for the majority of types of repair, certainly for those that we want to come through this method. So we've built a prototype out. I think this one still works. I'll come and see if I can load that out actually.
That is the correct thing.
Cheers, Paul. Thank you. I think I need to stop presenting there to reshare. Has that come through for everybody?
Yep.
Great stuff. Yep. So I am going to run through this one quite quickly, but just give you a feeling for how the product is looking. So at the moment it's branded up in that Gov UK style and built to GDS standards. So we've got a starting page on here, making it clear that if you're a leaseholder or communal or it's an emergency, please do something else. But starting this journey off, we only want non-emergencies through it, so we ask them to confirm that it's none of these things at the top and it's not communal. So from that point, this in the working prototype now does actually look up live to universal housing for a live property list, but in this prototype it's predefined. And then we've got a breakdown of textual information for to help somebody identify their problem. So they can say it's in the kitchen. I've got a problem with my cupboards and doors, and the issue is that there's a hanging door on there. Behind the scenes, there's an SOR engine so that an authority who chooses to adopt this can change or use a different SOR that's attributed to that endpoint. So we've built that functionality in. They then have the ability to describe the problem in there, and you can choose to upload a file at this point. If you've got a photograph, then that's great on there. We've also built in functionality on there so that somebody can't upload something that's inappropriate, as in the wrong file type or something that's too large. Ask somebody for some contact details in here. And we'll be using the GovNotify service to keep them informed of the appointment and to send them a receipt of this. They get to pick their appointment preferred slot on here, and they can cycle forward next 5 days if those ones aren't convenient. It gives them that overview of the appointment, and then at that point the repair is booked. The integration for DRS will have happened at that point and will have genuinely booked that to a tradesperson to arrive at that date and time.